I will carry on where you left off.
Hello, welcome to Access. My name is Rob. Joining us today is staff writer Connor.
Hello.
Who is fresh from a hands-on with Kronos, The New Dawn, which I know very little about, Connor, other than that the trailer was really scary.
Yeah, it's pretty intense game. You probably know, if you have seen the trailer already, that it's from Bloober Team, who obviously put out the amazing Silent Hill 2 remake last year, which was very, very scary. And this is their own IP, but it looks equally as terrifying.
Well, it looks like, you know, I can see a lot of influences from the survival horror genre across the years. It looks very Dead Spacey, just because it's a bit sci-fi-ish and you stamp on things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also just knowing what they did with Silent Hill 2, knowing the pedigree that they have when it comes to making things very scary. I've been sheltered by Dave on Access when it comes to having to face scary things, but I also am not good with horror. So just tell us about your experience playing the game, Connor. Was it as scary as the trailers make out?
Honestly, yeah. So it's a weird thing where I really enjoy survival horror games and always have done, but I've never particularly been, which seems quite counterintuitive, a horror fan.
Right.
So I don't mind the movies and comics and all of that stuff, but survival horror has always been sort of my preferred way into horror. And, you play a lot of them over the years, and you kind of get a feel for the mechanics of it, and it's, we need to go and get the bolt cutters, and there's a routine to these things, and that's fine. It's all part of the fun. But the game did a really good job of presenting you with these building blocks that you think you'd be familiar with, and you're like, oh yeah, just gonna go through the motions. I know exactly what's going on here, and you don't. It will surprise you, it will mess with you, and it will set everything up perfectly and then knock it all down right in front of you, and you will be in trouble. Which I thought was it's quite a feat. There are a lot of people that were playing the game, that everyone that I was speaking to was the same. They all agreed that they were expecting one thing going into it, and they were being surprised and shocked, and it was eliciting genuine emotions from them, which is, if you're a veteran of survival horror, it can be quite hard to do sometimes.
I think it's quite an achievement for any game nowadays to come along and surprise people like this.
Yeah.
I'm the same, where I'm like, video games have done it. I've seen everything video games do now. I know how video games work, and then every so often a game will come along that subverts or uses those expectations against you.
Yeah.
And when it's horror, it's naughty, isn't it? You're not allowed. You shouldn't be allowed to do that to scare people.
And and scare you it does. I think that's really its power, that it's lulling you into this false sense of security and using that against you. And it was a lot of fun to feel actual panic in the room, surrounded by other people experiencing actual panic. It was a bit like being in a cinema, but everyone's got their headphones on and solely focused on their thing, but you could cut the tension in the room with a knife. It was a lot.
So tell us about sort of where the game is set. What's the world? Because I've seen just indistinct sci-fi looking areas.
Yeah.
Tell us about the setting of the game.
Yeah. Okay. So it's set in sort of an alternate history Poland. So to give a really, really bad and quick history lesson, Poland in the 1980s was part of the Soviet Union, and in real world, there is a big trade unionist movement that the government is not too fond of in the 1980s, and they imposed martial law. And the team at Bloober were like, what if we took that idea, but rather than have it be a political gesture that sets off this quarantine, what if it was a scary sci-fi disease? So that's what they've done. So they've kind of imposed this, taken this real world and then twisted it with their alternate history.
I see.
So it's based in a place called New Dawn, hence the title, but it's based on a real place just outside Krakow, Nowa Huta, so that translates to New Foundry, and basically it's a town, like a model town, built in the 1940s and early 1950s as a sort of model town for the Soviet Union, to embody Soviet values and the values of the Union, and it's all built around basically this giant steelworks, which is where the shenanigans for this game seem to take place. We don't know a lot about the shenanigans, only that they have wrought destruction.
Yes.
There's a really good shot.
Horrible, slimy, tentacled creatures.
Yes, and it's the way that they've taken inspiration from this setting is really, really cool. So there are kind of actual real-world landmarks scattered around there. It's a real direct influence from this real physical place, but it's almost obviously they've like you say covered it in slimy tentacle monsters and flesh mounds and whatnot. But like one of the key images of the game is this amazing town hall, which is kind of split in two, and the top is still somehow floating because of these sci-fi shenanigans.
Wow.
And that's a town hall that was supposed to be built, but was never actually built. They just ran out of money in the real world, so they were like, well, what if we put it in the game? And we sort of made it.
And now it's just sort of bizarrely floating.
Yeah, again, don't know why, but I want to find out, that's for sure.
So we're talking about like an alternate history that's deviated around the 1980s.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So does it feel quite 1980s? Is the tech got that sort of like 1980s feel to it?
Yeah, so it's funny. So it's like an undisclosed amount of time afterwards that you're actually there. But the remains are sort of, at the end of the mid-80s time frame. So there are like cassette players littered around, and there's one character that you see, well, you don't actually see the character, but you see their room, their apartment right at the end, after a little bit of time travel. And you go back into the 1980s, and you're in the room that you were in before, and where all the posters were kind of peeling off the wall and were all tattered and torn. They are now new and shiny and glossy. In a sort of direct reference to, there's a scene in Dark, I believe, that does something very similar.
Oh man, I love Dark so much.
It's pulling from, a lot of that kind of sci-fi
If you mention
space.
Dark, if there's any influence from Dark, I am playing this day one. I don't care how scary it is.
It's great. No, it's a little bit of Dark. Obviously, you've pointed out already, sort of Resident Evil, Dead Space. It's quite unavoidable. Obviously, it's Poland instead of Ukraine, but you have this kind of Chernobyl-esque tragedy that has happened and has wiped out an enormous amount of people. So it's all of these comparisons quite hard to avoid. But you the whole premise essentially is that you are going back in time. You have to wander around and kill these people and look for these space-time oddities that you can go back in time and snatch people from the past to try and stop the disease from happening or spreading and taking place. So you're trying to go back and change history, basically. How you do that, I haven't quite seen yet. So as I say, the first time you actually properly go back in time was when the demo ended, and it was like, oh, not there, please, I want to keep playing. Right. I've just got into it now. But that's the joy of it, and it just leaves you with all these questions that are burrowing their way in my head still. I just want to know how the world has ended up this way from the little glimpses and facts and breadcrumbs that you get that seem to suggest how it started. Yeah. And then, what's happened in the meantime is the important thing.
What is it like to play on just a moment-to-moment basis? Like the core sort of traversal combat exploration mechanics? Are we talking traditional, over-the-shoulder, third-person, survival horror, inventory management, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so if you've played the Resident Evil 2 remake, you're on a pretty good space to kind of expect what to expect. So it's, limited inventory with a sort of stash box system in a safe rooms and whatnot. Limited amount of weapons that you can carry, and carrying resources to craft and that sort of thing. Third person over the shoulder, as you've said, and you, again, it puts you in these trappings of what you think is comfortable, and it really isn't. So the unique part of the game and its enemies is the idea that they merge together. So you will see the tagline in the various different parts of the promotion that they've done so far, don't let them merge. And it's a bit like the Dead Space limbs thing. Like this is sort of their unique take on what an interesting survival horror enemy can do. And the idea is that when you kill an enemy, it dies and it lays on the floor, and then other enemies will come along, and if they can come along over the corpse, they will just and absorb it. And it makes them stronger, and they can then absorb that enemy's powers as well. And you're like, oh yeah, well, that's a really cool thing, but it's probably not going to be that difficult to manage, right? And no, it is. It's really, really hard. So the first time you see it in game, from I believe anyway, is you kind of walk around a little horseshoe area in a building, and you have to pick up a key or something, and you're looking through a window, and an enemy appears and stands over a corpse of an enemy that you just killed and starts the tentacles, and you're like, oh god, but you're transfixed. It's a bit like watching a train crash or something. Like, you can't look away, and then you go around like, well, yeah, I've done this before, I'll be fine. And you can charge up your shots, which is pretty important anyway, because the guns to start with in survival horror tradition are not the strongest. So you're there charging up your shot, get a good headshot, and you're like, oh, it's done nothing. And then you shoot 2 or 3 more times, and it's still done nothing, and it's getting closer and faster. So you're like, well, I know what I'll do. I'll melee it.
You'll
die. But and you're sort of desperate panic. I'll just melee it. And everybody knows that melees are really strong in these games. And I hit it with like the big pistol butt swing, and it sort of recoils for a second, and then looks back and punches me harder. Like, it just, you can't get a leg up on these things. They're absolutely brutal. And it's just a really, like, it's a testament to sort of the way that they've designed these creatures. They are scary, and they will trick you, and you will be challenged by them. Which I think is really cool.
It's a classic thing that survival horror always has to balance, right? Making you feel powerful enough that you don't feel completely helpless.
Yes.
But making the enemies scary enough that it doesn't feel like a given. Like, as soon as you walk into a room knowing you're gonna win, a lot of the fright and the terror that a lot of the advantage that these enemies have over you sort of drains away, doesn't it? So,
and that space, you can also shift within that. So to go back to Resident Evil again, just because it's a very long, very famous franchise, it's good to use as benchmarks. You have the Resident Evil 2, which seems more you're less powerful, and then Resident Evil 4, for example, where you are more powerful, and this definitely feels like it's the less powerful, where you will be scrambling.
Let our work continue.
And again, just the game devs knowing what they expect you to do and using it against you. There was a brilliant section where I'm forced through a narrow corridor to progress. 2 enemies come out, and I can see 2 barrels, like explosive barrels, staggered next to each other. I'm like, I know what's going to happen here. So I'm going to slowly drag one towards me, shoot the barrel, wait for the second one to come and shoot that barrel. So I do it with the first enemy, everything's fine. And then the second one starts to come towards me again, and I shoot the barrel and go, manage that, everything's fine. What I haven't seen is that when the closest corpse to me now hits the ground, some other enemies have spawned and have started absorbing the enemy and merging with the enemy I've left further back. So they know what you're going to do, and they've used it against you. And when you get in these really close group encounters, it means that you have to pay constant attention to where you've left the bodies of these things. And if you're running around in a circle, you can't be running towards the bodies that you've left, because all you're going to do is make your life harder.
I mean, it sounds terrifying, Connor. I'm looking at your notes that you've written, and you have written down, and this doesn't seem like it would be in this game based on everything else that you said, that you can pet cats.
Yeah, you can pet cats. It's the most important part of the entire game. Yeah. I was really shocked. So you start the game outside, and it's very foggy, and then you go into the subway tunnels for a bit, and then after, I don't know, half an hour or so, you kind of emerge into the city of New Dawn. And it's very claustrophobic in there, but as you're wandering around in this section, I just heard this meowing and was like, is this in the actual building? Like, what's going on here? And then this little cat just appears in front of you, and there's a button immediately to pet the cat. I'm like, yes please, I'm going to immediately pet the cat. And then there's a prompt that flashes up to check the cat log. So there is an actual log in the menu.
Ridiculous.
It gave you an item though, so it's not just sort of petting a cat randomly. So it drops things.
That's allowed.
Yeah, but I just thought it was an
epidemic of needlessly petting cute animals in games has to stop. But at least there's something that you actually get from it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that struck you, Connor, before we wrap things up outside of what we talked about already?
Yeah, so you've got these amazing environmental puzzles, which again play with this concept of time travel and time oddities and whatnot that I've sort of touched on. So you have these environmental puzzles where you're basically flicking switches, but instead of flicking a switch, you're shooting a time-space oddity. and it changes the environment around you so that you can move around or uncover materials or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the way it does it is by physically deconstructing and reconstructing the objects that the void is tied to.
Right.
So, for example, there was a really cool section where I needed to go up 2 floors, and there's a big hole in the floor, and I'm looking up like, oh, I need to go up there. How do I get up there? And then you see the wormhole, and I shoot it, and the floor like assembles underneath me and lifts me up as if it's like it's reversing. It's like collapsing in reverse and like lifting me up. And you see that with bridges and stuff as well. I don't know if you've seen the movie Tenet before.
I've not.
Oh, well, there's a famous fight scene towards the end, like a big, massive action set piece, where 2 missiles hit a building almost simultaneously, and one is going backwards and one is going forwards, and it looks kind of just like that, like time is happening in 2 different directions all at once.
Wow.
And you've got these amazing particle effects that come with that, and everything either assembles or disassembles right in front of you, and it looks incredible. It's a real testament to the work that they've put in to get it to look that good, and also just be a fun, neat environmental puzzle. Like, yeah, flipping a switch is not necessarily a new thing. That's a game thing that's been done in games for a very long time, but they've taken that concept and gone, how can we make it different? How can we make it special?
How can we make it terrifying?
How can we make it terrifying?
Well,
yeah.
I'm really intrigued by this. I'm not usually one who gets massively excited for horror games. As I said, I'm a big coward. But when it's as intriguing a setting and a story as Kronos: The New Dawn, I think I'm going to have to check it out. So this is coming to PS5 later this year, currently slated for autumn 2025.
Yes.
If you like the sound of the game, or indeed you like the look of the game, please do let us know in the comments. Give this video a like if you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Connor, for travelling to Poland and playing the game and recounting your experience.
Oh no, my pleasure.
And
it's like the trip was made for me.
It was indeed, and hopefully we will have more on Kronos: The New Dawn closer to release. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.